This video explores lyrics from Pär Hulkoff, from his time in Raubtier, and his solo career. Although I like the sound of most of his works, I lack the musical background to give a detailed instrumental breakdown with the apt terms. Instead, I will really only consider the texts. My intrigue with Hulkoff's music began as I saw him as an opening act during Sabaton's 10-year anniversary tour of Carolus Rex in 2022. They opened with Lejonet från Norden, not Ghost Division. For those who know, you know. Hulkoff's show was loud and wild and raw, and the song Ingvar has not left my mind since. For the unacquainted, Pär Hulkoff is a musician and songwriter, most famous as the lead singer of Swedish metal band Raubtier. The band was founded in Haparanda, a city next to the border with Finland. Calling their music Swedish does not capture the spirit of the songs, as all Swedes can recognize the regional difference between northern Sweden and the rest. The north is more rough and rugged, colder, literally and socially, and the northern heritage is often carried as an elitist pride. As for the influence, Hulkoff has stated that his historical study is not super detailed, and that he distrusts those who have written history because of their agenda, what he calls the economization of the North. This is at the core of his anti-modern texts, and he embraces the old Norse ethos as he judges proud city dwellers from the harsh wilderness. My music is the music of my surroundings. It is the river, the lakes, the majestic trees, and the wild animals. I need all that to stay focused with antennas out. Cities kill the spirit. My criteria for selecting songs was a mixture of my personal favorites and those that would form a consistent theme throughout the course of the video. As a final disclaimer, I will state that I have not heard everything that he has penned or stated publicly. In Raubtier, the central theme is a harsh critique of modernity, which appears in the form of social liberalism in the West. His approach is to force them to see their antithesis, the brutal reality of nature. This is part of the motive behind the music being filled with imagery of violent beasts, primarily dogs bred for combat. The band's name is German for predator, and their militarism is prone to use other German terms like Panzer or Lebensgefahr. The imagery is a bit much for me personally, but I can appreciate its violent rejection of meekness. Starting the Raubtier songs is their great work, Opus Magni. It lays out Hulkoff's political and spiritual enemies, as he urges the capable to resist the corruption. Ni fria män som ännu bär på tanken om individens sanna ideal, ni som ej böjs av rusten ifrån banken och ej förleds av huggormarnas tal. Med eld och järn skall friheten betalas. Den kostar välfärd, lyx och överflöd. Är du beredd på att vakna upp ur dvalan? Frihetens pris är offer, blod och död. His apolitia is steadfast, the idea of not letting political circus influence one's inner life. He calls to distrust what passes for democracy. Röd eller blå, vad tror du det betyder? Blott tomma floskel, tumda av substans. Vår statschef böjer sig för dem han lyder, när helst de ämnar bjuda upp till dans. With this, Hulkoff alludes to different factions of elites who influence politics behind the scenes. Hulkoff's enemy number one is the all-consuming state known as Leviathan, a concept taken from Hobbes. A state can be totalitarian and tyrannical even if it hides under guises of freedom and democracy. This passage captures the bureaucratic oppression that the managerial state uses to terrorize man through gradual stress. En fri man är en hatad man som marginaliserad, blir mald av paragrafers ansiktslösa grottekvarn och långsamt kvävd till döds och enligt planen reducerad, omyndig förklarad och fråntagen sina barn. Vad blir av dessa barn? By declaring opposing opinions and views as sick, the state can apply its rules to condemn and punish without contradicting its own morals. Important to remember when considering the anti-modern is that its positive political endorsement is not confined to any particular ideology. Both communism and fascism opposes liberal democracy, yet all three are closer to each other than to systems 300 years prior, and further still from the localized Viking culture. When Hulkoff sings "Kollapsen är nära, vi kan ej längre bära för en korporativ fascism", he refers to the hidden power structure operating behind liberal democracy. Like him, I reject fascism as a totality, even if I agree with its critique of liberal man and appreciate its aesthetics. The bridge of the song is the highlight, for any social system that has citizens entirely dependent on it is doomed should stress push things past the breaking point. Massorna skall ledas genom skådespel och bröd. Vad skall det bli av vår höga nord när hungern river svårt? Hör mig nu, söner av frusen jord, jaga vilt, jaga hårt. The title references the motto of outdoors people. Hulkoff is an enthusiast of the genuine life in the wilderness, hunting, hiking, living it. The song outlines Swedish partisan resistance following the event of a foreign attack. He points to fragile systems such as the electrical grid, internet reliance, and how it affects self-sustainable food capacity. His cautionary warning reads thus: Det har talats om en värld förutan gränser och med lugner dold total inkompetens. Men här bortom våra truppfällor och stängsel har den hårda skolan lärt oss att var människa har en gräns. As a city dweller, I must respect Hulkoff's point of view, his resistance to be subdued. Western civilizations are not ready for total war on our soil. Our society festers with a fear of anything resembling death, whether it's sickness or growing old. And in our day and age, the possibility of war looms like the shadow of death, and all the frightened masses are capable of doing is cursing it. It drowns dreams and sacrifices young men to Moloch, and violates the civilians who can't escape its storm. And yet, bloodthirsty, democratically elected politicians with no skin in the game keep pushing for it. Man carries a latent violent capacity, and war is the only mode of expression for some. War existed before man, and it will not go anywhere. Let us at least be honest about its reality. Vi krälar som trälar, kriget tog våra själar. Vi blöder som bröder, vi ser hur marken glöder. Vi dväljs i evigt mörker, onda krafter har belägrat våran tid. This iconic song celebrates a self-destruction in napalm flames alongside the last man, Nietzsche's Untermensch, the inverse of the Übermensch. It is the boiling point of confronting modernist slop, whether in the form of reality TV or fashionable diets. Det är för tungt för drönaren att vara kreativ, så sitt nu kvar och slösa bort ditt enda liv. There are themes of accelerationism in the song, but it's far from advocating for such actions. In the same spirit as the epithet bestowed upon English Crusader King Richard I, Lionheart, the song urges the master to be unshakable against the impish attacks of slave morality. Fåren hatar herdehunden, ty han påminner fåren om en bäst. Man vill ha någon gömd och bunden, hatad, hånad, skydd som pest. Don't sink to their level. Keep your head high if you have noble aspirations. Instead of appeasing the sheep, The hero has real battles, lesser holy wars in the material world, and greater ones within. The imagery of Sigurd Fafnerbane appears as a model straight from the Eddas. Like Beowulf, he embraces his mortality by facing the danger. The expressed ethos includes immortality through one's deeds, something we will return to in Doom Over Dead Man, a devotion to honor. One does not need to be the strongest to be a hero, and a true attempt at heroism triumphs over complacency. For Hulkoff's solo career, his self-titled band makes its debut with the album Quen, which concerns, in his own words, the forgotten population in the north that was so important during the Iron Age. The music shifts from industrial metal to folk metal to accompany its shift from modern warfare to Indo-European tales. Unlike Sabaton's style, which accounts for actual historical details, Hulkoff embraces the fantastical in a way that makes the listener suspend some disbelief. The primary theme has shifted to the Old Norse ethos, expressed in the Eddas and Sagas. Hamingja is an ontological term of Norse mythology, thought of as a guardian spirit that is inherited within a family. The literal translation is fortune, and it is spoken of in the sagas as if it could be both positive and negative. Because of the Indo-European link between the Norse and Vedic texts, it is possible that Hamingja shares a common root with karma. As the song considers events foretold of in the Völuspá, the prophecy of Ragnarök, Hulkoff asks the listener if they still have their ancestral blessing and honor intact. The brave are heckled by coward's wrath. Brother takes a brother's life, poison drips from the traitor's knife. The flame is lit, steward, peasant, thralls and lords, now is time for swords. Life of man is now forfeit. Straight from the Havamal, this song considers the spiritual calling of blood and soil. I sometimes look down into a spring. I see my forefathers reflecting. I feel the weight of the song they sing, of strife and labor and suffering. The burden's mine and I face it. To me, this expresses my great reverence for my bloodline, a debt I feel greater than anything else, one that I must also repay. How much do we not owe to their plight? You are their masterwork, don't spoil it. Holmgang refers to a Viking tradition where two would face off at a holme, a small island. It is a sacred duel to the death that one must answer, to wash one's honor in blood. The tradition appears in Egil's Saga, which we must assume Hulkoff drew from. The utility of this tradition was likely to maintain social cohesion, but deeper still it reflects a reverence for not speaking beyond one's capacity. You have trampled on my honor and my family's in spittle and spite. So I summon you to Holmgang, for it is my plight and my right. An indirect result of practicing these brutal customs was a natural selection for strength and honor, a maintenance of the collective code. We can look back and appreciate that cowards, facing the risk of being called out, would have kept their slithering from public discourse. Shifting from the Norse ethos to the underlying Norse soul, the adventuring drive. To embark on an adventure into the unknown, following a great leader, that speaks to something deep in me. I believe this is the Faustian spirit, the restless European yearning for infinity, which Hulkoff unconsciously alludes to as one of his own musical drives, as he calls himself, a restless soul. The song tells of Ingvar Wittfarne, the far-travelled, a Swedish Viking commemorated on many runestones. He led a voyage down towards Serkland, eventually succumbing to sickness after battle in Bulgaria. To me, the mystique lies in hearing the names of contemporary locations in their older Swedish forms. Gårdarike for Novgorod, Serkland for the Middle East, and Gandvik for the Bothnian Sea. Part of the pleasure of listening to music or reading literature is trying to make sense of it on your own, forming your own story. I already knew about the Viking travels to the east, and so my romanticism could form. Eventually I read more about Ingvar and it cemented my awe. Jorvik is the Old Norse name for the English city of York, which during the Viking Age was a rich trading hub and a target for raiders. The text speaks of a farmhand of 16 years who feels something awaken in him as he observes the dragon ship of King Canute. He feels, no, he needs to sail out to sea in search for wealth and fame. This adventure resonates something deep within my Faustian soul, and even more so than Ingvar. Not knowing exactly what awaits, but burning to take on the world. I know why I'm made. I am off to raid, on a longship bound for Jorvik, with an axe in hand in a wild war band, going westwards, going to England. Let my mother know that I had to go where my father once set shore, and that I shall loot with King Canute and I won't come home no more. For what it's worth, I don't consider myself to be a violent person, but there is something within that call that still lands with me. The Eternal Wolf observes as his kind becomes tamed into hounds by embracing the comfort provided by humans. In this allegory, the dog envies the perks that comes from relying on the wolf's solitary strength. The ones who sold their freedom hates the one who still is free. In conclusion, I believe that Pär Hulkoff's music speaks to the heart of Westerners who can tell from whence they hail and who resist the decline of their civilization. For me, it was not the most violent songs that resonated, but those touching on truths I recognized in my own spirit, the Faustian pull, the weight of ancestry, and the cost of true freedom.